My name is Richard Pembridge, and I'm a police officer, and I became involved with restorative justice when I was assaulted whilst on duty. I can't remember exactly when I first became aware of it, but we were made aware of it as police officers through our role, and it was promoted across the police force as one of the means of out-of-court disposals that were available to us, that we could refer victims of crime to, and it was made known to us that we as police officers were also entitled to that service. My experience of restorative justice began when I was assaulted whilst on duty, and in the particular circumstances of that incident, it seemed to me that there was an opportunity to speak to the person who had assaulted me, and again, because of the particular circumstances of that incident, that they may be receptive to speaking with a police officer to go over what actually occurred and to discuss why it occurred. And I was particularly interested in what their background views on the police were, because they came initially from another country, and whether their experiences of police, if they had any, in that home country, influenced how they'd behave towards me. The benefits for me for engaging with restorative justice were to have that discussion with somebody and potentially influence their behaviour in the future, because the way in which that person had behaved towards me, I thought was unusual, it was unnecessary, it was unexpected. I'd attended an address where this person was by myself, so I was single crewed, and having met the person, it was one of those situations which, as a police officer, you learn to anticipate, not expect, but to anticipate. And it suddenly escalated quite rapidly to the point whereby I needed to use a level of force to restrain a person who then didn't respond in any, I'll say, rational way to me, which resulted in further escalation. And I wanted to discuss with that person why they felt they responded in the way they did. And for me to have the opportunity to say there was no need for that. I hadn't come here for that purpose. Why did you not respond to the initial opportunities and questions that I'd put to you? As a police officer engaging with restorative justice practitioners, I had a number of, or initially by email, which I responded to, and it was a process of me giving my views and my expectations of what I wanted to achieve and what I thought the other person might be willing to, the level on which they might be willing to engage. Various emails exchanged and a number of meetings, face-to-face meetings with the restorative justice practitioners, and arranging suitable locations and times. Obviously it needed to fit in with my work schedule. So it was fairly relaxed in that respect. You know, we could meet in cafes or wherever was appropriate. They said they would come to your home if you wanted. The explanation of the management of that situation when we did finally meet face to face, which was very clearly explained as being a controlled environment where it would be an exchange of views, some questions and discussion in a managed way, so there was little or no opportunity for things to get out of hand. So everybody knew what their expectations were once they finally came face to face. I think as a police officer, the process of restorative justice might be one that we tend to overlook for ourselves and think of it just being for victims of crime other than as police officers. But we're missing a trick if we do that, because as police officers, we have various expectations on those people we engage with, and sometimes things don't go as we expect, and people often behave in ways that we would rather they did not. So the process of restorative justice, as a police officer, there will be times when it is simply not appropriate to speak to a person again about why they behaved in a certain way and did a certain thing, which resulted in we as police officers being victims of crime, which is normally through assault. Some people just would not want to engage with that. However, if we want to get a message across to members of the public that what they did was wrong, they committed an offence in doing something towards that police officer who met with them, then what better way is there than for us to have that roundtable discussion, to talk about it and to hopefully change their ideas and perspectives about how the police operate and what expectations there are on them as members of the public when they engage with police officers. There's a far greater opportunity to be taken if we engage with restorative justice, which engages with that person in a more meaningful way, that provided that they agree to take part in the process, it gives them that opportunity to reconsider their actions and to have an opportunity to talk with a police officer, not in a police environment, with that officer out of uniform, to speak with them face to face in that relaxed way, knowing what's likely to be talked about, and to have that opportunity to think about what they might want to say. It humanises the process. And often police officers are seen by members of the public who may have little or no previous experience with police officers as an entity, as an object of whatever it may be, derision, what expectations they've got from their family and from their peer groups of how is the right way to interact and respond to police officers. To have that roundtable discussion with them, it gives us an opportunity to re-educate people, hopefully. When I finally met face to face with the person who assaulted me, that was again at a location which was mutually agreed at a time that was mutually convenient, and with, I think there were 2 practitioners from restorative justice present at the time. And it was in a quiet meeting room, so we had the opportunity to speak face to face without interruption in that managed way, with the restorative justice practitioners present and leading the discussion. And it was managed in a relaxed way, so that there were no surprises when it came to the discussion, but each of us was able to express our thoughts and views and sentiments about what had happened. As far as the process of restorative justice was concerned, the only surprise for me was that it took rather longer than I'd expected. But with the benefit of hindsight, I understand that there was a need for a to and fro discussion-wise between the practitioners, with me and with the person who had assaulted me prior to that actual face-to-face engagement. Other than that, there were no surprises because of the way it was managed. Thinking back on that process, it gives ample time for both parties, me and the person who had assaulted me, to think about the process and to reflect on it in a meaningful way. Once the process had actually started, it promoted that reflection on the process and what had actually happened, so that each party could come to that meeting having had ample opportunity and being promoted through the engagement by the restorative justice practitioners to talk about exactly what they wanted to say and how they felt about what had actually happened.